a gentleman, so she asked me to lift her hand as a gentleman. And I've done it.
By bringing out what is in my heart as an African woman. And the women who are here, whom I know, can also show their pleasure the way African women do. Please join me. Ranges, you are still there. I have come here to relive memories of wonderful people I worked with. But today, it is my elder brother, Eric. You know, people call me Excellency. For me, I like to be called the Dr. Spe or Nalongo. Because earlier on, when we sat at that table full of big wigs, our guest of honor commented, "You should go back to government." I said, you know, and my apologies to those in politics now and in parliament. This was my trademark. I always said what I thought. I never hide what I think. I don't like to be called honorable. Because if you compare the stamp of honorableness in the current time with the stamp of honorableness of the likes of Eric Sekebuga Adriko, the likes of Mondo Kagonyera, the likes of Rugumayo, I will take you out for the time being. That's why I asked you earlier, are you happy? And you said, yes. Then you see my colleague, Professor and Museveni Alike. And then my economic advisor, whom I worked with when I was vice president, Dr. Suruma. How can you compare? And Ugandans, I think we have to thank the people of Vura County. Who made it possible for me to work with the son of the soil. You know, in our times, and sometimes when we say that, the young people say in their times, and as you can see for them, their computer is on tablets. For me, mine is here. And Eric's is also here, you know. The best always met the best, which is a good thing. Because when you collect the best from across the country, you get them to know each other. You get them to get the same context of growing up and trusting each other as Ugandans. And I think this book, which we are launching today, gives real testimony of what the education system should do. We are not saying they are stupid people. We are not saying they are those who are slow. But then there are those brains, which out of every 100, you get maybe 5, or even 4, or 3 geniuses who need to interact with other geniuses so that they can come up with genius ideas for the development of the country, for the development of Africa. And I want to thank you, Eric, for the way you described how you went about excelling, working with other students. The teachers hold your hand. The teachers introduce you to what you need to do. And you read, and you eat fire, with the colleagues in the same class, not cram answers to examinations like is happening to our children today. It is most unfortunate. Eric, I met him. He was my boss when I became Deputy Minister of Industry and Technology. At that time, I think we had only 2 ministers of state in the whole government, in the president's office. But every ministry, every minister had deputy ministers, and we were the ones to do the donkey work. But if you were unlucky, because I was chairing the deputy ministers, if you were unlucky and had a minister who did not give you a schedule of work, you ended up eating grass. And in my 67 years now, I have found that people who are not sure of themselves fear to work with people who are brilliant. Eric, I was the youngest in the group, with Asa Kizamoti from Bunyangabo County, who was a son of a mother of twins, and I'm a mother of twins. And young as I was, our office doors were across from each other. He would come and kneel for me to greet me. And we had a stellar example of leadership. He gave me the schedule of UDC and industrial promotion. It was my job to make sure there were no strikes. It was my job to read all those reports. And that's when I was introduced to cabinet papers. Other deputy ministers told us, for us, we don't even see the cabinet papers. Eric, I want to thank you very much because you introduced me to government. You didn't introduce me to controversy. I was already controversial from Makerere University. As a DP, I was the national mobilizer of the women's DP wing. Very controversial. Defying people in government, leading the Black Tuesday march through Kampala. But your calmness, your listening, you're encouraging us to read, made me know that even as a surgeon, because as a surgeon, if I decide to cut you, I will cut you. But now I had to work as a team. And I want to say that you challenged us in that ministry to do many things which you don't even talk about in your book. Many people look at the economy where it is. Look at Dr. Suruma. Look at Dr. Adrico. If we had not relieved the budget from the clause of managers who are giving out cheats, the chief executive will get a cut from a bottle of soda. Then another cheat is sold to somebody. Then another one. In the end, every year, we would have to have, Dr. Adrico would now say, Specioza, we have to ask for a supplementary. But he said, no, you don't talk about that in the book. We ended with the leadership of Dr. Adrico, the legacy of compensating corruption at that time. You people are talking about corruption now. It was really linear corruption from one person to the other, and that is how it was bred, and it has become so gigantic because even the gate man to Pepsi Cola was getting a cut from the cheat. Eric, thank you for making me feel responsible, even as a young deputy minister. Because I don't know whether at this time a minister would allow their minister of state to chop up $100 million to divide it among companies. We got a gift of $100 million from Gaddafi. And Eric said, Specioza, this is your schedule. You are the one to make the initial allocation. Go and visit these factories. Go and do this. Every time people came from outside, they would first meet me. But of course, for me, I already knew what to tell them. Because every day at 8 o'clock sharp, we were in Dr. Drico's office to get guidance from him. Otherwise now, you know, I don't like rumor mongering, but I can tell you these days even all the cabinet secrets are out in the street. Ministers bite each other, members of parliament. It's really incredible. So in our time, there was no money in government. But Dr. Drico lifted the industrial sector to come up with what you see in Lugogo. And then also, because, you know, when you work as a team, you don't fear to speak for the team. So even when engineer was not around, he would say, Specioza, go and attend the meeting in State House. Otherwise, these days, I see it in a certain ministry. I see it sometimes anyway. You don't know where I sit sometimes. But you are a father. You have been a mentor. And I'm proud to say that whereas I did sciences and a bit of statistics, Dr. Drico showed me how to translate those numbers into policy, so that even when I became vice president and asked this very beautiful man, you know, men are not beautiful, handsome, Dr. Suruma, to actually come up with a paper on social protection in the country, I could discuss with an economist. It was, and I want to say that Dr. Drico trusts you if he sees there's something in your head. If he sees that you have room for improvement, he will polish you up. He does not look at you that you are young or you are old or you are what. He trusts people in their professional expertise wherever they are. And that's why it was easy for us, because the politician proper in the ministry was the late Asa Kiza Amoti. He brought a lot to the table. In the book, he talks about bringing something to the table. So wherever you are in your team, what are you bringing to the table? What are you bringing to the table? In your home, what are you bringing to the table? In your church, what are you bringing to the table? In your country, what are you bringing to this big table of all Ugandans? Because we like to blame others, and I never had Drico complain, because our ministry had a tiny, tiny budget, but it had a big brain of Drico, and we were able to do what we did because he gave that leadership. Because if you don't have plans and you are empty, who will give you a budget at the end of the day? I want to thank you very much for the mentorship you continue to do and the trust you put in me. And I eventually surpassed you and became vice president. But even then, you never stopped being at my side. And I must say, the people, I don't know who put this team together, because what is missing are the permanent secretaries. because technically we worked a lot with permanent secretary, and he mentioned these PSs in the book. And that's why even when I became vice president and went to other portfolios, my PS always was my right hand, the commissioners, because Adrico said, you cannot have, as a politician, you can end up in a ministry where you have no expertise. But you don't even need to have the expertise in that ministry for you to give the leadership. If you have the right technical people as managers of the ministry, that is permanent secretaries, and as commissioners and now directors. But now you find ministers doing the work of PSs, doing the work of commissioners, doing the work. You know, I'm a senior presidential advisor, and I advise the president through these forums. Yes. So, when we are old, let us continue to love one another. Let us look at Eric for the goodness he's done for this country. Let us shun the habits that make us the negative of what Eric has shown can and should be for the good of our country. Thank you for loving me. I think I've spoken enough, but the rest you know. You know how I love you, how I love the children, and Julie knows me also. She knows how I love her, and our in-laws, and the in-laws, our sons, our grandchildren. May God bless them all and continue to read this book. But before I go, yesterday at home I was saying, let us have what we are talking become.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give Dr. She has, in her own words, she prefers to be called Dr. Spe. And who am I not to honor that? As she comes, allow me recognize, let's together recognize